Welcome to Commentary Companions. I'm your host, Tony Garcia, and this is the last Commentary Companions episode of this year of 2025. Let me tell you, what a year it has been for me and for Hollywood in general. A lot of awesome movies that came out, and we lost a lot of people. I wish I could say that this podcast episode was made under happier circumstances. I'm sure every reporter who has to write an article about the death of a celebrity, it finds it very hard to find words to say, this celebrity died and at this age on this specific day. It's probably tough. I know, I've been there. I've written plenty of news articles about the deaths of celebrities back when I did reporting for a radio class, and I've done plenty of Facebook posts saying, oh, this person passed away, and yeah, I was sad about it. And this is going to be the most difficult thing I've ever had to say. On December 14th, 2025, actor-director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle Singer Reiner, who was also a photographer, an activist, and a producer, were both murdered in their home, supposedly by their son, Nick Reiner, who has had a history of homelessness and drug addiction. And he's a suspect and charged with first-degree murder for both of their deaths. Honestly, I wasn't expecting Rob to pass away so suddenly, and, well, although it doesn't seem like it, I actually was a big fan of Rob Reiner as a director. When I remember first watching his movies as a kid, two very specific that I'll mention very soon, but for a long time I always thought that Rob Reiner was a director. I didn't know that he was also known for being an actor and that his family was a family of actors. Yeah, I didn't know that his father was Carl Reiner, a comedian who worked with the likes of Dick Van Dyke and Mel Brooks. I mean, what a legacy to live up to. But, yeah, here on Commentary Companions, when I created the show, it has always been to celebrate my love for movies. Celebrate the movies and to celebrate the cast and crew and other collaborators who have worked tirelessly to make these movies possible for us, the audience. Because when we go to the movies, it's meant to be a wonderful distraction to help us forget our troubles for a few hours. And Rob Reiner was certainly a man who helped us forget our troubles when he was playing characters on TV and movies and also directing movies as well. And on Commentary Companions, like I said, I try to celebrate the filmmakers that worked tirelessly. 6 months ago, I remember... I think nearly 5 months ago, I remember doing a podcast episode, the first official podcast episode, pretty much talking about what I thought were the essential Steven Spielberg movies that I would recommend that you should watch to get to know the man, Steven Spielberg. And as a way of honoring his memory and celebrating his life, I am going to do movies that were directed by Rob Reiner that I believe are the most essential movies that you should watch if you want to get to know Rob Reiner as a director. Now, of course, before I talk about his directorial efforts, I should talk about Rob's acting efforts. Because he came from a family of actors, Carl Reiner and his wife Estelle Reiner, Rob eventually did a lot of bit parts. In fact, one of his earliest roles was, I think it was his second role. Rob Reiner was actually in an episode of Batman starring Adam West. He was 15 years old playing a delivery boy. I did not know this until I did my research, because I read the books. I do it all. Of course, Rob got his big break on a simple sitcom known as All in the Family, starring Carol O'Connor, Gene Stapleton, and Sally Struthers. I hope I got those names right. Now, All in the Family was actually based on a British sitcom known as Till Death Do Us Part. In case you don't know what All in the Family is, I guess I'll explain. The basis of All in the Family is that it focuses on Archie Bunker, played by Carol O'Connor, his wife Edith Bunker, played by Jean Stapleton, their daughter Gloria, played by Sally Struthers, and Gloria's boyfriend turned husband turned ex-husband. It's complicated. Her boyfriend and lover, Mike Meathead Stivic, played by Rob Reiner. And the basis of the show is that Archie Bunker is a massive conservative, a full-blown bigot, if you will. He's politically incorrect and a very controversial character. And the basis of the show is, and also, hilariously, Mike Stivic is a liberal, full-blown liberal, so Archie and Mike are constantly butting heads over differing ideologies. It's very much the comedy of the show, and the humor is supposed to be about how wrong Archie is for his bigotry and why it's controversial, but it's also kind of funny also. And Carol O'Connor played Archie to perfection, and the funny thing is, although Archie and Mike constantly butted heads throughout All in the Family, Rob Reiner and Carol O'Connor were actually very good friends in real life, very close. Rob saw Carol as a mentor figure to him. So their relationship really was a wholesome relationship, which was very nice. They were very supportive of each other. And this is what Rob had to say about Carol O'Connor, and these are his words exactly. "He couldn't have been more different from Archie Bunker. He cared about the little guy. He shone a light on bigotry and ignorance and hope. Arguably, he created the single most indelible character in the history of American television. In fact, Archie Bunker was actually kind of the inspiration for Eric Cartman on South Park. It kind of makes sense if you stop and think about it." Now, All in the Family ran for 8 seasons and had 7 spin-off shows, including Maude and The Jeffersons. In fact, All in the Family is so iconic that Archie and Edith Bunker's chairs are now an exhibit at the Smithsonian as of December 31st, 2025. That could always be subject to change at any moment. The show won multiple Emmys and Golden Globes. And Rob appeared in 174 out of the 202 episodes of the show. Of the 7 spin-offs, Rob only appeared in 2 episodes of the eventual spin-off Archie Bunker's Place. This episode was a 2-part episode known as Thanksgiving Reunion. Yeah, I didn't know about Mike Stivic's arc until I was doing my research. But yeah, All in the Family basically put Rob Reiner on the map. And eventually he started doing more directorial efforts because, well, Rob actually wanted to be a filmmaker. Even before All in the Family, that had always been his ambition. And eventually, that ambition came true. And so I'll talk about the first essential Rob Reiner movie, that Rob Reiner movie being This Is Spinal Tap, which is Rob Reiner's directorial debut in a movie. Well, at least a theatrical movie. This Is Spinal Tap is a mockumentary comedy film starring Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and Harry Shearer, while Rob plays Marty DeBurgi, a documentary filmmaker following the band's American tour. The band members consist of Michael McKean plays David St. Hubbins, Christopher Guest plays Nigel Tufnell, and Harry Shearer plays Derek Smalls. And one of the many running gags throughout Spinal Tap is that they go through a number of drummers who always die under hilariously bombastic circumstances. It's a running gag. I guess you could say those drummers are kind of like Kenny from South Park. There I go again, referencing South Park. But yeah, so DiBergi follows the band's American tour, and the film and the gimmick of Spinal Tap is that they're always way behind on what's trending. The running gag is Spinal Tap is always trying to follow whatever is popular at the time, trying to follow the zeitgeist. And right as they adapt to the zeitgeist of rock and roll, that fad is officially out of style, and so they're irrelevant, and they're so desperate to stay relevant. This is Spinal Tap is notable, is pretty much is This is Spinal Tap satirizes the behavior and musical pretensions of rock bands and the hagiographic tendencies of other rock documentaries. And, well, Rob co-wrote the script with guest McKean and Harry Shearer, and he filmed hours worth of footage. And the funny thing is, a lot of the dialogue is notably improvised, and well, the idea of Spinal Tap came as sort of like a conversation that Rob had with the other guys, and a lot of jokes and inside jokes, outside jokes, and eventually Spinal Tap became its own thing, and eventually Spinal Tap became a real-life rock band. This is Spinal Tap is also notable for being the first time Rob ever directed Billy Crystal in any kind of project. And, well, Rob and Billy go way back, even during Rob's acting days on All in the Family, because, well, before Billy Crystal really hit it big, he got his start as a writer on All in the Family and even played one of Mike's friends in an episode. So Rob and Billy's friendship goes way back in when it comes to that, and I'm sure that Billy clearly did this as a favor because he really saw Rob as his best friend. And this was also the first collaboration between Rob Reiner and Christopher Guest. You'll find out why very soon. And, well, This is Spinal Tap was considered one of the best movies of 1984, but found only a modest commercial success in theaters. However, later re-releases on VHS and DVD resulted in the movie gaining a cult following. And This is Spinal Tap ended up becoming one of the most popular things ever. And in fact, the movie is notable for originating the phrase "up to 11." It's like dial it up to 11. This is Spinal Tap got a cult following and ended up getting a sequel in 2025, Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues. And it's funny, I've never seen This is Spinal Tap. I hope I can, but the funny thing is, when I think of actor Harry Shearer, I think of all the many characters that he voiced on The Simpsons, such as Principal Skinner, Mr. Burns, Ned Flanders. When I'm only scratching the surface on all the multiple characters Shearer is known for voicing. It's like, I know him best for his many roles on The Simpsons, but it's quite clear that he'll always be best remembered also for Spinal Tap. So I think it's really cool that Harry Shearer has contributed to two significant game changers of comedy, and This is Spinal Tap is very much the pioneer of the mockumentary genre. And I think there wouldn't be many other modern mockumentaries if it weren't for Spinal Tap, I think. But yeah, I do believe because it was his directorial debut, This is Spinal Tap is an essential Rob Reiner movie that you should watch if you want to get to know him. His second film after that was Stand By Me, which was released in 1986 and was actually one of the first times Rob Reiner ever ventured into drama. Because Stand By Me is a coming-of-age dramedy, and it's also based on a Stephen King novella, that novella being The Body. And Rob Reiner named it Stand By Me as a reference to the 1961 song of the same name by Ben E. King. I'll play you a sample if you're not familiar with it. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. Oh, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. But, okay, so let me tell you what Stand By Me is about and who stars in it. Now, Stand By Me stars Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, Corey Feldman, Jerry O'Connell, and Kiefer Sutherland. And also Richard Dreyfuss, who is also Richard Dreyfuss and John Cusack. In it, Will Wheaton plays Gordy LaChance, who's an aspiring writer. The late River Phoenix, who was Joaquin Phoenix's older brother, plays Chris Chambers, the misunderstood juvenile delinquent. Corey Feldman as Teddy Duchamp, a mentally troubled young man who's kind of crazy. And Jerry O'Connell in his acting debut as Vern Tessio, who's kind of the dumbass of the group and scaredy cat. And Kiefer Sutherland plays Ace Merrill, a leader of gangs and bullies who antagonize the four young boys. And, well, John Cusack plays Gordy LaChance's older brother, Denny LaChance. And Richard Dreyfuss plays the older Gordy LaChance. It's funny, it's like this film was actually my first introduction to all these actors. But let me get to the basis of the plot. Now, like I said, Stand By Me is based on a 1982 novella known as The Body. And in this coming-of-age dramedy, Gordy, Chris, Teddy, and Vern go out on a journey to find the dead body of a missing boy. Sounds pretty morbid, and I guess it is kind of morbid, but despite all, and they also have to deal with bullies who also want to find the corpse of this missing boy for, fame and fortune, da-da-da-da-da-da. And throughout Stand By Me, the four kind of come to grips with their own personal troubles at home and through society and so on and so forth, and they kind of discover things about themselves, and Gordy even shares stories and anecdotes, and with Dreyfuss narrating as the older Gordy LaChance. And it received critical acclaim, and the movie was nominated for an Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay, and was also nominated for a Golden Globe Award for Best Picture in Drama, and Rob Reiner received his first Golden Globe nomination for Best Director in a Drama. Now, I guess I could talk about my personal thoughts about Stand By Me. Of all those films, Stand By Me might be one of my favorite Rob Reiner movies. I was so surprised to find out this was the same guy who directed The Princess Bride. Sounds inconceivable, don't you say? And, well, the thing is, I remember watching it on Turner Classic Movies, and prior to that, I had watched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which had the late Phoenix as young Indiana Jones, and he was really good as a young Indiana Jones, regardless of the fact if he didn't look like Harrison Ford. I think it's funny. It's like River Phoenix didn't look like Harrison Ford, and you were all fine with him playing a young Indiana Jones. But when Alden Ehrenreich plays a young Han Solo, and he doesn't look like Han Solo, you get up in arms and throw a fit about it. It's ironic. But yeah, this was a major movie I remember River Phoenix for, and he played Chris Chambers so well. And I know a lot of people know Will Wheaton best for his performance in Star Trek The Next Generation, but I know him best for playing the young Gordy LaChance in Stand By Me, and he's really good playing this vulnerable kid, still coming to grips with the death of his older brother and how neglected he feels with his parents just not even paying him any mind, and the guilt he feels wondering whether it should have been him that died in that car crash. He's a sympathetic character, and Chris is the closest to another brother that Gordy really has. And it's like And yeah, this was also my introduction to Corey Feldman and Jerry O'Connell. And I think it's kind of funny that I did a commentary companions episode about the X-Men films and the Punisher as I was talking about Jerry O'Connell's wife, Rebecca Romaine. And well, I gotta say, for a first-time performance, Jerry O'Connell gives a great performance as the young Vern Tessio. He's so funny and likable, even if he is a dumbass. But he's a lovable dumbass. And, well, and I think, and it's really cool seeing all the progress that Jerry O'Connell has done years later in life. And I'm really glad for his success. And, but yeah, this was my first introduction to these characters, as well as Kiefer Sutherland. I know a lot of people know him best for roles like The Lost Boys and as Jack Bauer on 24. And, but yeah, this was my first introduction to Kiefer Sutherland, and he's so hateable as Ace Merrill. He does such a great job playing this intimidating bully. And, yeah, even I want to punch him in the face. And I've also read The Body, and I think the changes that are done in the movie work to the film's benefit and really do make the characters more defining and more admirable. And I think it's and yeah, I have such a soft spot for Stand By Me. It's one of my favorite movies that I love watching, and I never pass up an opportunity to watch the film. And it's definitely, and I can see, I mean, Stephen King loved this adaptation, and when Stephen King loved your adaptation, you know you've done good. And not only does and Rob Reiner also said this is one of his favorite films that he's done, and I can see why. It's a perfect film, one of the best coming-of-age films ever made, and Richard Dreyfuss does a great job as the older Gordy. I mean, it's almost a cliche to have an older actor pretty much be the voice of the older child protagonist. And I think the best example of that is in A Christmas Story. We hear the older Ralphie, who's voiced by the film's screenwriter, Gene Stapleton, and he does great voicing this older Ralphie. Oh my God, I shot my eye out. And also, Richard Dreyfuss is also one of the best adult narrators, and he does so well as the adult Gordy. I believe him as the adult Gordy LaChance. But yeah, I have such a soft spot for Stand By Me. It's one of the best coming-of-age dramas I've ever watched. It's funny, it's sad, it's mature, and I think it's one of those R-rated films you can show to a kid because it's good to know that these are kid performers who they can relate to. But yeah, I think Stand By Me is also another essential movie. Essential Rob Reiner movie you should definitely watch. And another essential movie from Rob Reiner you should watch is The Princess Bride, which stars Cary Elwes, Robin Wright, Mandy Patinkin, Andre the Giant, Chris Sarandon, Christopher Guest, Wallace Shawn, Peter Falk, Fred Savage, Billy Crystal, and Carol Kane. The Princess Bride is adapted by William Goldman, who pretty much adapted his own novel of the same name. And it tells the story of a swashbuckling farmhand named Wesley, played by Cary Elwes, accompanied by companions befriended along the way, who must rescue his true love, Princess Buttercup, played by Robin Wright, from the odious Prince Humperdinck, and played by Chris Sarandon. And this film is a meta thing. It's like a story within a fictional story, as it's narrated by a grandfather played by Peter Falk, who reads this to his sick grandson played by Fred Savage. And what can I say about The Princess Bride that hasn't been said? Although it was a modest hit at the box office, The Princess Bride was nominated for Best Original Song for its main theme ballad, Storybook Love, and it was nominated for Best Writing, and Robin Wright was nominated for Best Actress at the Saturn Awards, winning Best Fantasy Film and Best Costume Design. It won the Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation and the 1987 People's Choice Award. Fred Savage won Best Young Actor in a Drama at the Atrios Awards. And, well, you may or may not believe it, but The Princess Bride was my first introduction to. It was the first Rob Reiner movie I ever watched. I remember my parents got me the video cassette of The Princess Bride, and I pretty much fell in love with it. I was so shocked to see so many. The Princess Bride was my introduction to actors like Robin Wright, Cary Elwes, Andre the Giant, Fred Savage, Peter Falk, and Wallace Shawn. I mean, I remember recognizing Wallace Shawn and was like, "Hey, that's the voice of Rex from Toy Story." He has a very distinct voice as Fezzik. I probably botched the name. Hold on. No, it's Vizzini with two Z's. And fun fact, before Wallace Shawn was cast as Vizzini, Danny DeVito was also considered for the role of the Sicilian mastermind, best known for saying "inconceivable." And well, yeah, I'm constantly quoting that line, and because it's so funny, and the way Vizzini went out was pretty much one of the most hilarious deaths I've ever seen. I mean, give him credit, at least he went out laughing. But yeah, it's so quotable with quotes like "inconceivable" and "as you wish," and I didn't realize it was meant technically a romantic comedy, as I see it more like, I usually saw it more as like a fairy tale film, like the kind of fairy tale films from Disney, like Snow White and Cinderella, stuff like that. And it felt so believable. But yeah, it's like, I know a lot of people know Fred Savage for his role on The Wonder Years, and people also know Peter Falk for his role as Columbo, but I know them best for the grandson and the grandfather in The Princess Bride. And yeah, and it's like, I didn't even know that The Princess Bride was what helped put Robin Wright and Cary Elwes on the map, and they are so convincing and so great in their respective roles. I mean, Cary Elwes is such a great swashbuckler, and he really does. He is believable as Wesley, always saying "as you wish" to Princess Buttercup, and this was also Reiner's second collaboration with Christopher Guest, who plays the six-fingered man who killed Inigo Montoya's father. Oh yes, how could I be so foolish in forgetting that iconic line said by that character? "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." Such poetry. I actually remember seeing the costumes at the Experience Music Project back in 2014. It was really quite an experience. And also, I didn't even recognize Billy Crystal as the old Miracle Maker due to all that makeup. But I was so shocked I was so shocked to see Billy Crystal like that. And I was like, wait, that's the guy that voiced Mike Wazowski on Monsters, Inc.? Yeah, imagine my shock in not recognizing him. But he's also funny. Everyone is perfectly cast. Everyone delivers their lines so perfectly. And it's so satisfying when Wesley and Buttercup get back together. It really is one of the best fairy tale movies I've ever seen. And also one of the best fantasy romantic comedies. I mean, it is definitely one of the most essential Rob Reiner movies ever made. And yeah, this is, it's Stand By Me and The Princess Bride are my favorite Rob Reiner movies. They're the GOAT. They are him at his best. And, well, I think if you're going to get to know Rob Reiner, you should watch The Princess Bride. I'm thinking of getting a DVD of The Princess Bride to honor Mr. Reiner's memory. That's the best I can say, you know? But yeah, I recommend it. And of course, another Rob Reiner movie that is essential is When Harry Met Sally, which was released in 1989 and was written by the late Nora Ephron. When Harry Met Sally stars Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan, the late Carrie Fisher, and the late Bruno Kirby. This romantic comedy follows Harry and Sally from the time they meet in Chicago and share a drive to New York City through 12 years of chance encounters in New York, and addresses the question, can men and women ever just be friends? And, Of course, this was an idea that Rob had when his marriage with Penny Marshall was ending and they got divorced. An interview Efron conducted with Reiner provided the basis for Harry. Sally was based on Efron and some of her friends. Billy Crystal came on board and made his own contributions to the screenplay. And Nora Ephron supplied the structure of the film with much of the dialogue based on the real-life friendship between Rob and Billy. And, well, when Harry met... And also, I want to talk about a fun fact. Now, I don't think I've really given Rob's second wife, Michelle Singer Reiner, her due. Because it's like... Michelle was a warrior in her own right. I mean, she was a freelance photographer. Ironically, she took Donald Trump's photo for the cover of his piece of shit book, The Art of the Deal, which Singer pretty much regretted. And she did a lot of freelance photography and started collaborating with Rob and worked with him as a photographer on When Harry Met Sally. And it was actually It was Michelle's suggestion for how When Harry Met Sally should end. And she pretty much, she basically contributed to the ending of the movie, giving it such that satisfying climax. Speaking of climaxes, we all know a certain fake climax Sally made at Katz's. I'm not going to imitate it. But, yeah. When Harry Met Sally was released in selected cities, and the studio let word of mouth generate internet interest before gradually expanding distribution, grossing $193 million on a $16 million budget. And as for the awards, Nora Ephron was nominated for Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars for When Harry Met Sally. Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan won Funniest Actor and Funniest Actress at the American Comedy Awards for their performances. At the Golden Globe, it was nominated for Best Comedy, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Director, and Best Screenplay. And also, it kind of helped give Harry Connick Jr. sort of pretty much helped put him on the map with his cover of It Had to Be You. And, well, the thing is, I've tried getting into it, but maybe I was a bit too young. But I remember as a kid, my parents had a DVD of the movie. And it's practically one of my mom's favorite movies. But she knew I was too young to watch it, but she has such a soft spot for it. And the scenes that I have looked at are pretty funny, especially the scene where Harry rants about a bad coffee table, and his friend is all like, "But you said you liked the coffee table." I was being nice. That makes me want to laugh so hard. But yeah, When Harry Met Sally is one of the best romantic comedies, and it's great to see an original romantic comedy. And it's well written, well acted, well directed, and it has also a kick-ass soundtrack as well. And, well, while I don't really have much of an opinion about When Harry Met Sally, I definitely remember this being the first post-Star Wars movie I remember seeing Carrie Fisher in, and it also proves Fisher's ability to do comedies. And, yeah, it still is kind of crazy seeing Billy Crystal in such a role after seeing him as Mike Wazowski on Monsters, Inc. And yeah, this was also my introduction to Meg Ryan as well. And fun fact, the Roy Rogers coffee table rant was also kind of used when Pixar was trying to get Billy Crystal to voice Buzz Lightyear. They used the coffee table rant from When Harry Met Sally as using that archive footage to animate Buzz Lightyear, because they were hoping that Billy Crystal would say yes to the role of Buzz Lightyear, but Billy turned it down, a decision he regretted until Monsters, Inc. But yeah, if you're a fan of romantic comedies, and if you're a fan of Rob Reiner, I would recommend When Harry Met Sally. It's definitely one of his most essential movies. And of course, it's kind of crazy knowing that right after doing When Harry Met Sally, Rob did something that was completely different in genre and in tone in general. That film being Misery, released in 1990. And it was also his second collaboration with William Goldman. What were the odds of that? Misery is also Rob Reiner's second time directing a movie based off of a Stephen King novel. Misery was published in 1987, and in this psychological horror film, it stars James Caan as a novelist known as Paul Sheldon, who is held captive by Annie Wilkes, played by Kathy Bates. And Annie Wilkes is an obsessive fan of Sheldon's work. Now, the background, and it's Misery is a cautionary tale on what happens when a toxic fan takes the fandom and their love for a project way too far. But yeah, when Stephen King published Misery, it was inspired by the negative reaction that his fans had when he published The Eyes of the Dragon in 1984. The Eyes of the Dragon was King's first attempt to venture out of horror and his attempt to try and do an epic fantasy book. But unfortunately, fans lashed out and rejected it being a non-horror movie. And, but eventually, Stephen King did eventually get to do non-horror stuff. I adore the non-horror novels that King has done. I love The Body. I love Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. I love The Green Mile. And of course, you could say that The Dead Zone is supernatural science fiction, and I would totally recommend The Dead Zone. It's a good book that you should totally read. But yeah, Misery was based on the negative reaction from fans when he tried to do a non-horror story. And, well, King decided to make that a sort of novel, creating the basis for Annie Wilkes. And I believe that Annie Wilkes is a cautionary tale on what happens when you take fandom too far. It's pretty much the basis for toxic fans. And I have seen my fair share of ugly, toxic fans who make the fandom of something you love a horrible place to be part of. For example, like Star Wars fans are a fine example of toxic fans. They're pretty much why I kind of resent being a Star Wars fan. But enough about that. Misery is very much a psychological horror film. It's the first time that Rob Reiner ever worked in the horror genre, and it was also Reiner's first collaboration with K&B Effects Group, a practical effects company that has worked on various horror films and has worked on The Walking Dead, and has also collaborated with Quentin Tarantino. And it was K&B Effects that did the infamous hobbling scene. But yeah, Misery shows what happens when a fan goes too far in their obsession with what they love. It's so much so that they lash out, and it's kind of Annie Wilkes is every writer's nightmare when it comes to toxic fans. It's very much, it was relevant back in 1990, and man, it's relevant now. I mean, Misery and the Eminem song Stan are prime examples of what happens when fans take things too far with their love for a project or something like that. And they're relevant now, especially in the age of social media. Now, for her performance as Annie Wilkes in Misery, Kathy Bates won an Oscar for Best Actress, as well as Best Actress in Drama at the Golden Globe. As of December 31st, 2025, Misery is the only Stephen King adaptation to ever win an Oscar, and it's also the only time Rob Reiner has ever directed an actor into a successful Oscar-winning performance. I've never really watched Misery, but I'd be interested in watching it, and I hear that James A. Janice of Dead Meat is interested in doing a kill count for Misery. And I think that would be a great idea, and maybe I'll watch it then. But I think Misery is definitely one of the most essential Rob Reiner movies if you want to get to know him. It showed that he was more than just a guy who can do romantic comedies and whimsical fantasy comedies and stuff like that. It showed he can do some serious shit. And Misery paved the way for the next film on the essential list. That film being A Few Good Men, which is a legal drama that was released in 1992. It stars Tom Cruise as junior grade Daniel Caffey. It also stars Jack Nicholson as Colonel Nathan R. Jessup, Demi Moore as Lieutenant Commander Joanne Galloway, Kevin Bacon as Captain Jack Ross, Judge Advocate Division, and Kiefer Sutherland as First Lieutenant Jonathan James Kendrick. These are all Marine people. And this was also Reiner's first collaboration with its screenwriter, Aaron Sorkin, which was actually something he adapted from the stage play from of the same name. This Broadway play was pretty much first opened on Broadway in 1989. A Few Good Men tells the story of military lawyers at a court-martial who uncover a high-level conspiracy in the course of defending their clients, 2 United States Marines accused of murder. I haven't seen much of A Few Good Men, but I know of its reputation and how a big deal it is, and I know it for a certain scene. You know the scene. You want answers? I think I'm entitled to answers. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Oh, yeah. That's, I didn't know that's where it originated, but surprise, surprise, that's where it did. Interestingly, A Few Good Men was also the first collaboration between Rob Reiner and Jack Nicholson, and it was also the only time that Reiner ever collaborated with Tom Cruise, Demi Moore, and Kevin Bacon. The film was a smash hit at the box office, grossing $243.2 million on a budget between $33 and $40 million, and was nominated at the 1993 Oscars for Best Sound Mixing, Best Film Editing, Best Supporting Actor for Jack Nicholson, and Best Picture. A Few Good Men is the only time Rob Reiner has ever been nominated for a Best Picture Oscar. I mean, but then again, what Rob lacks in the quantity in Oscar nominations, he certainly made up for in the quality of the films that he made. I can't really say much about A Few Good Men. I mean, it's not for me. It's pretty much one of those films I didn't even know that Reiner worked on. But I understand the legacy that it leaves behind and how iconic it is. And it also showed Tom Cruise's ability to do drama films. I mean, then again, he had always proven his ability as a serious actor. And I think this was another film that really contributed to his star power and ability to do great films. And, well, I didn't even know that it was based on a play. But imagine my surprise. And Aaron Sorkin had such an interesting career as a screenwriter for plays and also for TV and movies. It's definitely interesting. And, well, if you're a fan of court dramas and military dramas and also, if you're a fan of all that, you should watch A Few Good Men. It might be quite an interesting film, and if you don't like it, well, you can't handle the truth. Another essential movie that I decided to add at the last minute was The American President, which was released 30 years ago in 1995. It stars Michael Douglas, Annette Bening, Martin Sheen, Michael J. Fox, and Richard Dreyfuss in his second collaboration with Reiner. In this political comedy, written by Aaron Sorkin, collaborating with Reiner for the second time, Michael Douglas plays President Andrew Shepard, a widower who pursues a romantic relationship with Sydney Ellen Wade, played by Annette Bening, an environmental lobbyist who has just moved to Washington, D.C. And, of course, this plays a big role on Shepard's approval ratings. And it's also one of the few times Michael J. Fox ever played a straight man in a comedy, because he wanted to do more than just screwball roles and stuff like Marty McFly. And, well, The American President was definitely a movie that Rob Reiner needed after the critical and financial failure of his other directorial effort, North, starring Elijah Wood. Oh, yeah, I guess it was only a matter of time before I mentioned North. I mean, I've never really seen it, but I know of its reputation as being one of the worst films ever made, so hated by Roger Ebert, the critic, that he ended up became part of one of his most famous rants about that movie. You know what rant I'm talking about. I hated this movie. Hated this movie. Hated it. Hated every simpering, stupid, vacant, audience-insulting moment of it. Hated its sensibility that thought anyone would like it. It was kind of a torpedo to Rob Reiner's reputation as a director, and I think if it weren't for The American President, I think Rob Reiner probably wouldn't be able to make another movie. Probably not for a few years. I mean, from what I've heard, The American President is well-liked for its charming blend of idealistic romance and sharp political wit, featuring great chemistry between Michael Douglas and Annette Bening, with Aaron Sorkin providing great dialogue and a heartwarming story that offers a hopeful, Capresque vision of politics and public service, despite its political idealism sometimes clashing with reality. The American President is a feel-good political fairy tale, offering an escape into a world where empathy and integrity prevail in Washington. So you know you're watching a work of fiction here. But, yeah, The American President was a critical success and a box office success. And, well, it was also nominated at the Golden Globes for Best Picture in a Musical or Comedy, Best Director and Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy, Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy, and Best Screenplay. It also got an Oscar nomination for Best Original Score in a musical or comedy, and it also led the way for Aaron Sorkin to create the political drama TV series The West Wing, starring Martin Sheen. So yeah, The American President is kind of a big deal. I mean, I don't really have much of an opinion about The American President, but I felt it would have been offensive if I didn't at least mention this movie to anyone that is a fan of it. And it's also available on DVD. I remember my parents got that movie alongside the political comedy Dave, starring Kevin Kline. And, well, if you're a fan of Aaron Sorkin as a writer, I guess I would recommend The American President. It feels like a great foreshadowing of what he was able to produce with The West Wing. And also, I must confess, when I was writing this list, I wasn't sure what else to talk about when it came to Rob Reiner's filmography. But I suppose there's one other movie I guess I could talk about, regardless of the film's quality, that film being The Bucket List, starring Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman. This film is also the second collaboration between Rob Reiner and Jack Nicholson after A Few Good Men. In this movie, Nicholson and Freeman play Edward Perryman Cole and Carter Chambers, two terminally ill men who go on a road trip with a wish list of things they want to do before they officially die. Very much a bucket list, hence the title. Sounds pretty simplistic, and yeah, it is. I mean, despite getting only a 40% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, The Bucket List was a box office success, grossing $175.4 million under a $45 million budget. I actually remember when they promoted this film in theaters, but I never really watched it. I didn't really get it at first. But, you know, now that I'm older, I totally understand what the idea of the Bucket List movie is about. While it may have gotten mixed reviews from critics, The Bucket List is considered a well-liked movie by audiences. audiences who loved it find The Bucket List inspiring, heartwarming, enjoyable for its chemistry between Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman. Despite critics panning it as cliché, sentimental, and unrealistic, it's a polarizing film. Many viewers love its emotional sincerity and the message of living life to the fullest, while critics point to its obvious plot devices and sappy execution. I think it depends on what your viewpoint is, but if you want to see Jack Nicholson and Morgan Freeman show off their comedic and dramatic abilities as actors, I think Bucket List might just be an essential movie for anyone a fan of Reiner, Nicholson, and Freeman. Another movie that Rob Reiner directed that I would consider essential would have to be the movie Flipped, which was released in 2010. It's a coming-of-age romantic comedy drama film that Rob Reiner not only directed, but he also co-wrote with Andrew Scheinman. And the film stars Callan McAuliffe, Madeline Carroll, Rebecca De Mornay, Anthony Edwards, Penelope Ann Miller, Aidan Quinn, Kevin Wiseman, and John Mahoney, who you might know best for playing Frasier's father on, Frasier. Flipped was also notable for being one of the last movies that John Mahoney ever worked on before his death in 2018. Now, Flipped is actually based on a book from 2001 by Wendlin Van Draenen. And it tells the story of Julie and Bryce. Julie is played by Madeline Carroll, while Bryce is played by Callan McAuliffe. And Julie and Bryce have been neighbors since the second grade, who are never on the same page with their feelings until 6 years later, just when she's about to give up. They both start to have feelings for each other, despite being total opposites. And I remember reading Flipped when I was in 7th grade, and it's whereas Flipped, the novel, takes place from 1994 to 2000. The movie Flipped takes place in the 1960s, and the thing about Flipped is that it's told through each chapter flips to different perspectives. One chapter, we see a chapter that's narrated from Bryce's perspective, and another chapter, we read a chapter that's narrated through Julie's perspective, as they kind of try and figure each other out and wonder if they're really in love with each other. And I remember reading the book in 7th grade, but I was pretty surprised to find out they were doing a movie adaptation of it, and I was even more surprised when I found out it was Rob Reiner who was directing said film. And, it was released in theaters and was garnered lukewarm reviews from critics and grossed only $4.3 million against a $14 million budget. However, Flipped has since garnered a greater appreciation for its realistic portrayal of teenagers and a wider viewership via home video and streaming services. So much so that Flip is now considered a cult favorite. I don't know if it has the same cult following as This Is Spinal Tap, but, it's got its own likable enough reputation, and if you want my honest opinion about Flipped, I kind of like the movie adaptation more than I like the book adaptation. And for the most part, I think the Flipped movie is very faithful to the book. It stays true to the story, characters, and the dual perspectives. I think the movie does a great job doing the dual perspectives. They didn't have to go that route, but I have to respect Rob Reiner for actually going that route of having each scene be narrated through Julie's perspective and then Bryce's perspective and so on and so forth. It's a very good detail that I'm glad they kept, and I'm cool with the 60s aesthetic of it all. It's I kind of like the movie adaptation more than I like the novel. But if you like teen films that are filled with romance, angst, and drama, Flipped is definitely an essential Rob Reiner movie. It may not be as great as Stand By Me and When Harry Met Sally, but it's decent enough. And I think the last essential Rob Reiner movie that I'm probably going to talk about is Albert Brooks, Defending My Life. It's a documentary film from 2023 that Rob himself pretty much directed. It's funny how Rob made his directorial debut directing a mockumentary, and here he is in 2023 directing a for-real documentary, which is a tribute to Albert Brooks, who is an actor and a comedian and also a director and screenwriter. I know him best for voicing Marlin in Finding Nemo and for voicing Russ Cargill in the Simpsons movie. Those are how I became familiar with Brooks. But Albert Brooks and Rob Reiner have actually been friends in real life. They've been friends for nearly 60 years. And they became best friends since meeting at Beverly Hills High School. And a lot of Albert Brooks' Defending My Life is pretty much Rob pretty much interviewing Albert as they reminisce about other times. Albert Brooks' Defending My Life not only features Brooks and Reiner, it also features Jonah Hill, former news anchor Brian Williams, TV host Jon Stewart, TV host Conan O'Brien, comedian and actor and creator of Seinfeld Larry David, Chris Rock, Steven Spielberg, Tiffany Haddish, Sarah Silverman, David Letterman, and Judd Apatow, and Neil deGrasse Tyson. Defending My Life got a 97% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and I guess the best consensus I can say about it is Albert Brooks' Defending My Life offers an engrossing and suitably funny overview of its subject's career, and one that'll leave you wanting to watch more of his work. So, yeah, the film is actually pretty popular. And I think it's kind of funny, like I said, that Rob directed a legitimate documentary here after getting his start directing a mockumentary. And, well, you can find Albert Brooks' Defending My Life available on HBO Max because this is a documentary that was produced by HBO. And, well, it's definitely something you can definitely like. And if you want to just see a film in which Rob Reiner gets to talk to one of his old friends, then I would recommend Albert Brooks' Defending My Life. I mean, I debated with myself on whether I should even include this documentary, but I decided, what the hey, for the heck of it, if it means celebrating an actor like Albert Brooks and Rob Reiner, then I say I'd do it. I mean, I do have a confession to make. A lot of the, as you can tell, a lot of the films I've watched, pretty much, I haven't seen all of them. I think I've only seen clips of When Harry Met Sally, and I've only seen a few clips of A Few Good Men, and I've seen Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, and Flipped, and that's about it when it comes to my expertise on Rob Reiner's directorial efforts. I sometimes also forget, like I said, that Rob was also an actor. And I didn't even know that he was in The Wolf of Wall Street playing Jordan Belfort's father. That really surprised me. And it's kind of cool knowing that a guy like Rob Reiner got the opportunity to collaborate with Martin Scorsese, who I have a lot of respect for as a director. And, well, yeah. Those are the essential Rob Reiner movies. I actually had a lot of fun pretty much thinking up this list and also looking up all the research on what these films accomplished and such. But I just wish that when I did this list, it was under better circumstances because, well, I am saddened by Rob Reiner's death and the death of his wife, Michelle Singer Reiner. I mean, I really admire the fact that Rob really fought for what he believed was right. He was very much Mike Stivic in real life, very liberal, and was one of Donald Trump's biggest critics against him. And that only made me respect Rob even more. And it really saddens me knowing that there's something bittersweet knowing that his last movie was a sequel to his directorial debut, Spinal Tap 2. But it really saddens me knowing that we're never going to get another movie from Rob Reiner, and we'll never know what he could have done next with his life being so abruptly cut short. But I want to take comfort knowing that hopefully he's in a better place and he's no longer in pain. And my heart goes out not to Rob and Michelle's friends and other extended family members, because we may have lost an iconic director, but Billy Crystal, Sally Struthers, other actors and directors who knew Rob and Michelle, they lost two dear friends, and that is heartbreaking. And I'd like to think to myself, 15 years from now, I mean, people aren't going to give a fuck about Charlie Kirk or Donald Trump, but the new generations to come will discover Rob Reiner and appreciate his works. And that is a legacy that I can take comfort in. But anyway, that is my podcast episode. And what a story it was. I mean, it was a roller coaster, and I really had fun talking about these movies and talking about the experiences I felt with watching films like Stand By Me and The Princess Bride. And, well, I'll miss Rob Reiner, and I really want to thank you, the audience, for being so willing to listen to my commentaries and my podcast ideas. They were definitely long, but I think the hours that I worked on were totally worth it, and I appreciate you, the fans, whoever is listening. Anyway, thank you for listening to my podcast episode on the essential Rob Reiner movies. I'm Tony Garcia, and this has been Commentary Companions. Okay, so it's kind of weird to be doing like an outro for something like this, because I'm sure some of you are used to seeing me doing like intros. Hold on a moment. That's better. But yeah, that's I'm sure you're kind of used to me doing intros, but given that this is my last official Commentary Companions episode of this year, 2025, I figured it's only fair that I talk about the potential future that I want to do for Commentary Companions. I promise, about a week from now, my next Commentary Companions episode, it'll definitely be Ghost Rider, and then the rest of the non-MCU movies up to The New Mutants, because I've explicitly mentioned that I will not be doing Commentary Companions episodes for Sony's Spider-Man universe, and I probably won't do any of the other films like Kick-Ass and the Men in Black films. I don't really view them as official Marvel movies, so they don't really count from my point of view. And I also probably won't be doing any of the straight-to-DVD movies and like some of the animated straight-to-DVD Marvel movies, or stuff like The Punisher starring Dolph Lundgren, or that 1990 Captain America movie. And for God's sake, I am not going to do a Commentary Companions episode on Howard the Duck. Tempting as it would be to talk about it, since 2026 will be Howard the Duck's 40th anniversary, but I'm not doing that. Not unless I get paid, and you can quote me on that. And, well, what am I going to do once I'm done with the non-Marvel Cinematic Universe movies? Well, I actually do have a plan. I'd love to talk about the 1991 Beauty and the Beast animated movie from Disney to celebrate the film's 35th anniversary. I want that to be a Valentine's special. And I also want to do a commentary on The Hunchback of Notre Dame and Space Jam, since 2026 will be those films' 30th anniversaries. And I also want to do, 2026 will be the 40th anniversary of Pixar Animation Studios, because the company was founded in 1986 and formed, and I would love to do Commentary Companions episodes on every single Pixar film that was theatrically released up till Elio. I would start with A Bug's Life, and then I would do Elio, because I've already done the first Toy Story film, but that would be the idea. And I also want to talk about a tumultuous time in Pixar's history before they were bought by the Walt Disney Company. That's an idea that I have, and, well, I'd also love to do other podcast ideas, like essential movies that were directed by Quentin Tarantino or Guillermo del Toro. Well, I guess you'll find out. But yeah, this year has been difficult. It came at a cost, but I'm really glad that I did this entire series for all of you. Thank you for viewing, and I hope you have a good 2026, and let's hope it's better than 2025. I'm Tony the Happy Nerd, and don't have a good day. Have a great day.